All right, thank you. And here we go for the Rapporteur for end of day 2. So I hope everyone's had an amazing day. I certainly have. And we're just going to bring up a visual of the day, and it gives you a little bit of indication of what's been like today, some of the emotions and some of the intensity. And it's certainly been like that for me. But if we think back to the start of the day, if you can remember that far back, Aidan Davey introduced us with the fact that closure's been a constant in the thinking for ICMM since the mid to late 2000s. It's really been a big deal, a big part of what they've been thinking about. And there's a very good reason for that. And the reason is that if people are going to support mines coming on board, well, they have to have confidence that those mines will close, and they will close responsibly. And that, of course, is complicated by the fact that circumstances change, markets change, social expectations change, it's all changing. So the closure process needs to be responsive to that, and needs to be initiated earlier, and needs to be managed. And if you can do that, then you can achieve better outcomes for everyone concerned. And there's a risk in not getting that right. There's a risk in not being able to achieve better outcomes. So there's kind of a key kind of takeaway there from Aidan's introduction. Look, I think that Kayleen's presentation was also fascinating for me. So the investment environment is clearly changing, and that brought home to me with the use of these proceeds bonds. And investors are looking not just for a return. And we're no longer talking about sort of fringe investors or a particular group of investors. This is now part of the mainstream. It's now in every boardroom. It's now being part of what the financial regulators are doing and the rating agencies are doing. And they're bringing more scrutiny to these things. So we avoid this issue of greenwashing by being really clear about what we actually mean by ESG outcomes. So yeah, no, look, I think that was really key, fascinating insights from the keynotes. For me, though, the real depth of the day was in the workshops, and I have to say, as the rapporteur, can't even say it right, the rapporteur, it's actually a really difficult challenge because the breadth and the depth of the material was just amazing. It was actually extraordinary. So I apologize in advance if I can't get through all of it, because there's just so much incredible material, which I think the researchers involved will be continuing to digest and to build on. And really, thank you so much to all the workshop participants for that engagement, including when we had some technical difficulties. So yeah, everyone has been really fantastic and generous, a real generosity of giving up time and giving up your energy or contributing your energy. So look, thank you. The first one, of course, was on the role of mine closure intangibles, and really thinking about what different actors can do, what the government can do, when we have a relinquishment process, and at what point might government take over that responsibility. But in that workshop, a really key question was whether we can have financial products, derivative products, which provide tradable mine closure solutions. It's a really fascinating question, and I think very pertinent question to be looking at. Of course, another question there is NPV appropriate? And if not, then what is? So that's a great set of questions there. And if it is appropriate, how do we manage discounting factors, discount rates, these sorts of things? How do we quantify not just the tangibles, but the intangibles, the risks and the uncertainties? I mean, and think about that in the context of cash flow. So to quote Eric, it's the S, which is in ESG, which is the complicated part. So thanks, Eric. I'll always think of you when I think about the S in ESG. Look, workshop 2, understanding values in post-mining economies, really went into depth on what are people's critical values and the considerations in realizing those. And again, an extraordinary richness of contexts. One of the questions which arose for me in that was, do we have a trade-off between jobs and broader well-being? And does there need to be this trade-off? Is it implicit, or is it there sometimes, or not at all? These are important questions. A key thing which I thought really resonated for me was that what matters for industry is what matters for communities. Industry wants to work towards something that matters, but industry needs to know what that something is. So that's a real kind of nutshell there in terms of a key takeaway, I think. Needing to know what matters so that we can work towards it. Once again, dialogue was a critical factor, just as it was yesterday. And conceptualizing closure at an early phase is another key topic for dialogue. But that's complicated because, as to quote Fran Ackerman, time changes the goalposts. Just look at, for example, the rocket launch facility idea. That was not in people's thinking in some, early phase of that mine development, of that life cycle. Plus, of course, it's important to consider multiple post-mining land uses, not just a single post-mining land use. Karina Kemp really had a brilliant talk about the link between trust and data, which is continuously changing. I'm now a fan of the Edelman Trust Barometer, which I did not know about before. I should have, but I did not. Trust, but it does bring home to us something I did know, is that trust is measurable. It is trackable. We have measures of it, not necessarily always the best measures, but I can tell they're getting better. So thanks, Karina, for bringing that home. And now, of course, there are new methods for sharing data. These are constantly changing. They're getting more dynamic, they're more interactive, and they are more accessible. So yeah, now look, and a group of high school students have showed us just what you can do with COVID data. In terms of Renee Desai's talk about the knowledge hub, it's a real reminder that translation is a key component of achieving the goals of the CRC, and drawing on user-centered design is crucial. And that sometimes the designers have great ideas which may not always be aligned to what users are thinking. So look, thanks also to Peter Dalhouse for the importance of presenting a case for sharing data and emphasizing that social architecture is important, and there's a possibility there to be a data steward. And to Ibrahim, there are these thousands of mines out there, but the challenge is that we lack data on all of these abandoned mines. And we need this data in order to identify potential mine users. Tom Hatton reminded us that sometimes our reach exceeds our grasp because there's a supply chain issue for data for cumulative impact. Cumulative impact needs to be legitimate, addressing what matters to a region. It needs to be credible so that we have the best available knowledge, and it needs to be salient. It needs to be relevant over time. So these are all important questions. And of course, we had the review of the EPBC Act discussed, which has a greater focus on planning, and particularly regional planning, for the first time in a terrestrial context. And I'd like to sort of finish up with a discussion of demonstration sites. So thank you to John Crosby. You always remind us that the right solutions need the right problems. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There are pragmatic aspects when it comes to demonstration sites. You need adequate space, and it needs to align to timelines and budgets and stakeholder expectations. So, plus, of course, it can't interfere with operations. So these are crucial, important questions for when it comes to demonstration. I'd like to thank everyone for all of the participation today. It's been amazing. It's been brilliant. I've tried to get to it as much as I could. I apologize for those parts that I missed. We do have the face-to-face gatherings in Brisbane and in Perth for those who are able to make those gatherings. If you're in Brisbane, I look forward to seeing you there. And if you are not in Brisbane and you're not coming to the gathering, I look forward to seeing you all online tomorrow. So once again, thanks everyone. And please look out for the media posts about the Times CRC forum. And thanks to Jane Stacey and managing our social website as well. So have a look at LinkedIn and also Twitter. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.